Hello everybody, welcome back to my workshop, welcome back to my garage. What we're going to be doing today is this is my 5th video from my Great Guitar Build-Off build. Here's where we're at so far. The finish has been applied, it's dried, it's cured, it's been sanded and polished. It's a nice flat surface. It's not entirely gloss, but it does have a nice matte gloss to it, you know, if you know what I mean. The back came out well. So what we've got left to do, paint the pickup cavities. We got to install the electronics. We have to do the fretwork. We have to install the tuners in the bridge, and then do final setup. So as we begin to get rolling, that's what we're going to start off with. I'm going to start off with doing the control cavities, and then we'll just work our way up from there. All right, so all I'm using is the Stumac conductive paint, and I'm just going to paint the cavities with it. It recommends giving 2 coats of this to let it dry for 24 hours in between. That shouldn't be an issue here, as I've still got fretwork to do and other things to do on the guitar, so I'm not too concerned about it taking a little bit. Alright, so there we have it. The control cavities are all done. Got the back cavity and the pickup cavities. They're all done. And now we can start moving on to the next step, which is probably going to be fret leveling and redressing. Alright, so what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to make sure that ends of my frets are beveled. Make sure there's nothing coming out there from where it was before. So just going to take several passes. Next, what I'm going to do is just take my three-corner file, and do the edges. Being careful here around the body. Alright, so the one thing we want to do before we start worrying about leveling the frets is we want to make sure the fretboard's straight and level. So I've got my notch straight edge. This one goes from a 25.5 radius or 25.5 inch scale to a 27-inch scale. I don't have a 27-inch notched straight edge, so what I'm doing is I'm just laying it along the edge of the fretboard where it's in the 25.5 scale, and seeing from there. So you just lay it on there, and what you want to look for is that it's nice and flat and that you don't have any gaps between the fretboard and the bottom of the straight edge. If you do, you just adjust your truss rod to get it level. But mine is level, so we're good to go for that. So let's start masking off the fretboard. Alright, so now that I've got the fretboard all taped off, and just the frets exposed, and we know that the fretboard is level, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to take a fret rocker and 3 frets at a time, see if it rocks. If it rocks, you know you got a high fret. I did ask that Crimson, there we go, there's a little high right there. I did ask that Crimson crown level and polish the frets when I got it, so they should be pretty close. Okay, so just a blue Sharpie, I'm going to draw a line right across the top of the fret. This way, I'll know once I've leveled the fret all the way, once all the blue Sharpie's gone off the top of the frets, I know that I'm level. And then just going to take the 320 side and make passes down the fretboard. Yep, getting most of them. Most of the high spots are going away now, and it's just a matter of getting to the ones that are the low spots. Okay, so now all I'm doing is I'm just rounding over, I'm crowning I'm recrowning the frets. I got my three-corner file. I've got lines drawn on top of the frets again. And what I want to do is just take a little bit off each side. I'm going parallel with the fret as I'm doing this. And I just want to take a little bit off each side until that line on top becomes just a nice thin line. Alright, so like I said, it's a long process. It takes a while, but just don't rush it. So one thing I want to do now is I'm just going to go back through and check my fret ends, or check the frets to make sure they're still level. Make sure I didn't do anything wrong when I did the crowning. We still go one more with this one. But these frets are all level. It's time to polish. So what I'm going to do next is I've got my micro mesh kit, and I'm just going to take it. This goes from 1,500 up to 12,000. So you don't have to spend a lot of time with this. I'm just going to start off with the 1,500. It gives you a soft sanding block, and I just kind of go over the frets. If you don't want to do them more than one at a time, you can set it on its end. The good thing about this is it's the sponge, so it goes right down around the fret. Alright, so now I polished these all the way down to 12,000 grit with the micro mesh, and they're already just mirror finish right now. But what I'm going to do is I just use a little bit of the Meguiar's all metal polish, and kind of put some on the frets. I don't do a lot of them at a time. I just do a couple, that way the polish doesn't get on there and dry too long. Alright, now that all the frets are polished, let's peel the tape off. Here we go. That was the advantage of putting the tape down the side, is it really helps getting it off when the time comes. It's time to hydrate the fretboard. What I'm going to do with this is I'll spray some on the rag, wipe it on the fretboard. It doesn't take a lot, but I am going to put quite a bit on it because I want it to soak in. So what I'll do is I'll put this on, coat of this. I'm going to put it on pretty heavy, and then I'm going to let it set, and then I'll come back and wipe it off. I might put a second coat before I wipe. Depends on how many dry spots I see. And I'll come back in a little bit and buff that off. Be time for the next step. Alright, well, sorry about that. My card filled up. I didn't really catch it until after I was finished soldering, but here's the inside already soldered up. I've got the treble bleed installed. The only thing left to do will be, I've got my ground wire, my hot wire for the output or input jack. I've got my switch wired. The only thing left to do is install the pickups and then run the pickups and wire the pickups in. And of course that I'll be doing here shortly. But I've got that done. As you can see, I got my bridge ground wire installed. Just set my bridge over top of that way I get good grounding on my bridge. And then just a little bit of candle wax on these screws to help them go in. This will help them glide through the wood easier. And this is where you really want to be careful. You want to make sure you have the right size screwdriver. You don't want to be using a screwdriver that's too small or too big, because you want it to go, you don't want it to slip. You want to get it tight, but you don't want to strip the screws either, or strip the wood. There we go. It's installed. Got my bridge wire. Now it's just a matter of putting my saddles back on. And that's just simply slide those in, slide the spring on, and come back in with the saddle. And there we go, bridge is installed. Next step is going to be I'm going to go ahead and get the electronics installed. Alright, so what I've done is I've got my slid my electronics in. I've adjusted them to the point on the bottom where they're going through the body at the right depth. That way I don't have too much knob sticking out the top. I've still got to do my input jack. That I'm going to need to adjust a little bit, because I'll show you. It fits in fine, and there's plenty of room, but as you can see there's a little bit of a gap there to where when I screw, I need to get a spacer to fill that in to where I can tighten it down. But that's really all that's left for that. What I'm doing now is I'm just going to tighten these down. Make sure my pot's oriented right on the inside there. There we go. There we go. Toggle switch installed. And I've got plenty of room when the time comes to run my pickup wires in. So basically what's going to happen when I run my pickup wires in, pickup wires are going to come in, they're going to ground, and then they're going to come all the way across, and the hot lead will go into each side of the switch. But they'll be grounded back here on this pot, on the volume pot. I'm using 2-wire connector pickups, so it's pretty straightforward. Just ground the steel braid to one of the pots, and then the hot lead goes to one of the leads. And that's it. All I got left to do now is beef that spot up a little bit for my input jack, and I'm good for electronics. Alright, so now it's time to start cutting the nut for the guitar. What I've got, and I'm gonna just kind of clip through this a little bit, but what I've done is I've placed the nut in the slot, and because this is multi-scale, it's beveled, so I can't just go straight off the edge of the nut. So what I've done is I've marked the nut. Not sure if you can see that, but what I've done is I've marked the line. That line is my fretboard from the front of the nut, and then this is the back of the nut. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it down on the sides to these lines. That way the nut fits in the slot. And then what I'll do after that is then I'll measure how much above the fretboard I want my cuts to be, and then file the nut down to closer to that size. That way I'm not dropping the string through, because you can see there's still about 3/16 of an inch of nut above the fretboard. I don't want to have to cut nut frets or slots, string slots that deep. So what I'll do is I'll contour the top of the nut, get it closer to what it's actually going to be, and then I'll start cutting the slots in the nut. Alright everybody, it is finally done. Here is my completed guitar for the Great Guitar Build-Off. Still got do a final setup on it. I've pretty much got the nut set to where it needs to be. And I've still got to put a truss rod cover on, and I've still got to put my back plate on. Basically I'm waiting for I'm using magnets to hold that on, as you can see. So I had to route out the back side of the plate, glue the magnets into there. And then I'm also waiting, I'm going to put an oil finish on those pieces. They're made out of zebra wood, so they match the pickups. For the finish, I did a green dye, green to black burst on the front. For the neck, I did hard wax oil for the back of the neck, and for the headstock, I did the tongue oil on that. The tuners are locking tuners from HipShot. I chose the open tuners to where it shows the gears on it. The bridge is a HipShot bridge from them. This has been a great kit to build. Really enjoyable. I can't wait to see what it sounds like, and I can't wait to next year when I do my scratch build. So once again, thank you very much. If you've liked what you've seen, please click like and subscribe. I will be doing one final video for my final wrap-up with sound samples and everything on it, with the proper setup on the guitar. But other than that, thank you very much. It's been enjoyable. Until next time, take care.